So I want to talk about the qualities of a play. And your textbook talks about this, but I want to help us digest it a little bit. So qualities of a play. And the textbook identifies these items: credibility and intrigue, speakability, stageability and flow, richness, depth of characterization, gravity and pertinence, compression and economy, and celebration. We're going to talk about each of these in a little bit of depth. So, first, let's talk about credibility and intrigue. So, when we think about credibility, it's the thing that draws us in. So, that ability to believe the premise, feeling like there's some level of sincerity. Now, it doesn't have to be lifelike. There are some remarkably unrealistic plays that can draw you in pretty immediately. Um, So believability is not the same as credibility. Um, but credibility does have to do with the play's actions and how they flow. So does it flow logically within the world of a play from one event to the next? And some of this depends on the playwright crafting a world that has rules that make sense together, right? So how does the play flow, and how does the playwright create the rules of the world, especially if we're breaking reality? Um, Part of credibility is that one action seems to make sense following the next, like Act 2 makes sense following Act 1. And that any conflict between a situation's strangeness and the familiar can make a play compelling. So, credibility is what draws us in. We believe that this could happen. The rules make sense. The context makes sense. The world feels like it's a world in which there are rules. I mean, or not. It could be a world without rules, but that has been made real clear and it makes sense. It kind of becomes the rule, right? But intrigue keeps us there. So intrigue is that quality of the play that makes us curious. It's the thing that makes us go, so what's going to happen next? Ooh, I want to know. What they did this? Oh my god. And we're going to start to try to predict based on the rules that we feel are credible, right? We're going to start to predict based on the rules the playwright has set up what's going to happen, but the intrigue is we're continuing to search for those answers. Intrigue can happen through plot. So that would be cliffhangers. Oh my goodness, what's going to happen next? But it can also happen through theme and character. So it's beyond what will happen, and it turns into, what does that mean? Sometimes we see things happen, it doesn't make sense, so we're starting to search for that interpretation. Why did they react that way? And so we want to know, we want more information, and we're looking for that why. So that can be intrigue also, that question of why. So playwrights are also they're looking at speakability, stageability, and flow. So speakability. We want the words that are written, the lines that are written, to have maximum impact when spoken. Take some time. Look at a script or two, and there will be some scripts available in this form. Read the words silently to yourself, and then read them out loud. Does it make a difference? And read them out loud like 15 different ways. Does it make a difference when you say the words out loud rather than when you just read them and they live in your head? Playwrights are going for the most impact when the words are spoken aloud. There are some plays that you can read and you read them silently and you're like, this is boring. What were they thinking? And then all of a sudden you read them out loud and it just comes alive. And that is the thing that is important. Not that it is read like literature and that it is impactful, but that you speak it aloud and it comes alive. So playwrights are really looking at the rhythm, and they're looking at the sound, and they're looking for emphasis and meaning and focus and power. So all of these things: how is a word said? How is a sentence said? How do individual characters speak? All of those things. So we want these spoken lines to reflect the character's personality, not just the author's personality. A lot of times when you look at beginning playwrights, all of their characters speak with the same patter and the same sentence structure. But if you listen to the people around you, we don't all speak with the same sentence structure and same vocal pattern, right? A skilled playwright starts to tune in to the individuality of each character's voice. Playwrights are also thinking about stage ability. So stage ability, how can you actually put this in a physical world on a stage? So that is not just acting demands, although like that can be real. Like if an actor has to go from like sobbing hysterically to laughing and cooing, I mean that can be a pretty dramatic jump for an actor. But you're also looking at, does the actor have to fly? Are things staged on the ceiling? Did the floor rotate while the audience was watching? Like those start to become drawbacks for stageability, right? It's not real easy. It's a technical problem. You're also looking at how scenes can change. So scenes change the physical capability of a physical stage. Sometimes a scene change can be much faster on film because you just do that crossfade and you don't have to do the scene changes, the set changes in real time. But in a theater performance, the medium of theater requires that those scene changes happen in real time. And so a playwright has to keep that in mind. Do we have time to get the Empire State Building off the stage and then replace it with a life-sized airplane? I don't know. And that could be hard. The playwright also wants to think about flow. So a play is continually saying, doing, or meaning something. So flow is looking at the scene shifts. It's looking at the entrances, the duration of the exposition. How is all of that backstory communicated? How long does it take to get the backstory communicated? At what point does the audience start to get bored, right? Because exposition can get really boring. This did happen, this did happen, this did happen, but what's happening now? Because the playwright is still looking for that intrigue to keep us interested, right? And playwrights are frequently asking, how do I show this? Rather than telling, and they did this and you did this, just, how do we show the action? That's why we have bodies in space. Playwrights are thinking about richness. So when we're talking about richness, it's the attention to detail. It's the insight into the world. And that can be in the way a word is crafted. That can be in the stage direction. That can be in the playwright's specificity about the world rules that he or she has crafted. And so that attention to detail can affect the richness of a play. Playwrights are also looking at the depth of characterization. I'm going to put this video below this video, and you can watch a number of playwrights talk about how they craft characters. But a playwright is really trying to make sure that each character can be independent. So they want characters to have independent expression, intention, motivation. We talked about intention and motivation from an acting perspective, but playwrights think about this too. What are those characters' goals? How does this character express his or herself? How does Bob express his feelings differently from the way Mary expresses her feelings, right? And what drives them? Characters seem sensible in light of our knowledge of human beings. So whenever we watch a play or a movie or we listen to stories, we come to those stories with an understanding, with our own personal understanding of humanity. And a playwright is trying to seat every character they craft within an understanding of human beings. And that can be an incredible challenge, but it's really exciting. And so a playwright wants to make sure that characters have a validity or a purpose. Are they valid? Do they make sense within the audience's understanding of humans, the playwright's understanding of human beings, the world that the playwright has crafted? We're looking for validity. And they all need to have a reason to be there. nothing extraneous. Everything needs to have a strong purpose. Playwrights are seeking to create gravity and pertinence. So if a play has gravity, we're thinking about that play's central theme, and we want it to have we want that theme to be one of serious and lasting significance. So go back to the theater critic lecture. When theater critics are thinking about, they're evaluating a play, they start to think about the human significance. And playwrights think about addressing this too. Playwrights try to address how they feel about the world, what they see in the world, and many times there is a level of human significance in that. We're looking for universal problems, and these can include aging and discord and regret and insecurity and rejection. But it doesn't mean that the play has to be serious. There are plenty of plays that deal with very serious themes that can be hilarious. But that doesn't mean, but they still have gravity. They're rooted in things that are real. Sometimes that's what makes it funnier. We also want to think about pertinence when it comes to a play. Especially contemporary playwrights are thinking about, I mean, if you are alive, you are a contemporary to the time in which you are writing, right? And so playwrights now are addressing the world around them, the concerns of the audience around them. And sometimes these concerns can be timeless, and very often these concerns are relevant to the culture that exists in the country, in the place, in the time. Plays think about compression and economy. So compression, we're looking at a playwright's skill at compressing a story into a theatrical time frame. So theater plays, you're looking at, if there's no intermission, it's probably going to be 90 minutes when it's all played out. If there is an intermission, you might have an hour in the first act, you might have 45 minutes in the second act, so you're looking at an hour and 45 minutes. But we need to finish that story within those traditional time frames. Are there plays that are shorter than that or extend beyond that? Of course. But most audiences are going to expect that 90-minute or hour and 45-minute experience. So can the playwright compress the entire story into that time frame? And there's skill involved in that. Also thinking about economy. So the playwright's looking at eliminating or consolidating plays, characters, events, locales, words that are not directly necessary to the major theme. You see this when people talk about writing novels as well. What needs to be said and what is extraneous, and how do we make sure we keep that focus? Plays often have an element of celebration. What are the fundamental aims? With celebration, we want to extend our known experience. We want to illuminate life, and we want to raise existence to the level of art. So playwrights try to take their observations of existence, of life, of being alive, of human beings, of the world, and they try to offer us illumination, different perspectives, so much so that it becomes, life can become art.